In this masterclass, I'm going to tell you the story on how I grew my high performance home building business. I'm going to draw back on some of the memories and first high performance homes that we built in BC. And I'm going to share some lessons and some advice on how you might be able to grow your business and what might happen over the next decade of home building. You might be interested in watching this masterclass if you want to learn my story of all the things I've screwed up in the last 20 years as a high performance home builder and all the lessons that I've learned building over 75 high performance homes here in the city of Vancouver. So if you're a home builder, if you're a business owner, if you're a trade contractor, and you're interested to understand these things, then please watch along. I'm going to tell you how to be bold, be gutsy, and get educated. Hi, I'm Joe Geluch. I'm the president of Naikoon Contracting. I was born in a small village of Masset, BC, Haida Gwaii. Very beautiful place. My father still lives up there. And I've been in this industry really since I can remember. I started working with my dad 5 or 6 years old, cleaning up job sites and following him around like a lost puppy. And I've been doing this professionally for over 22 years and ran a business for 20. Actually, I've been doing this professionally for over 24 years and ran a business for about 20. I've had a number of businesses in the construction and home building space. My passion today is Naikoon. I've been running this business for 13 years. I relaunched my father's company, Naikoon Contracting, which was born in 1980 in Masset, BC, and was named after Naikoon Provincial Park, which is one of the most beautiful places on earth. If you haven't been, you should go. That's at the northeast tip of Haida Gwaii. So that's sort of the history of Naikoon and where it came from. And I had sold my previous construction company to my partner in 2009, and Naikoon was dormant. Sort of my dad was retired, and I relaunched that in North Vancouver. That was myself and one employee, and we set out on a mission to build high performance homes and also try and enact change on kind of what I viewed as illogical means and methods in our industry that I'd learned over the years and what I'd seen as a young man growing up through the industry. Home building is everything really to me. So I live, breathe, eat, sleep, dream home building, construction. I'm obsessed, and I wake up every morning, most mornings, and I'm excited for the day. It brings a new dynamic every day. You got the opportunity to make people happy, both on the job site and in their homes. And then the opportunity to try and innovate. I'm a bit of an efficiency junkie, and so trying to find ways to do things a little bit better, a little bit faster, and that's what sort of keeps me going every day. Okay, well, let's talk about high performance home building for a minute. Certainly what we do and what I've been passionate about for a long time. We see this as more mainstream today or being codified today. And a lot happened over a very short period of time in the big picture. So I kind of go back to 2009, and Naikoon set out to do some great things, really construction company. And why high performance? Well, I think just logic. I'm a logical human. I run my life based on rationalization and logic. And so I just viewed a lot of what we were doing in home building to be illogical. So, why would we not build a home to be more comfortable? There's a number of things we started doing early on, which would be deemed high performance, but didn't cost money necessarily. They just cost effort and forward thinking in how we would assemble a home or what steps we would take on managing sort of airtightness and other things. So, for us, high performance means, there's every label under the sun. We've done most of them for various reasons. And for us and for me at this point, high performance means a few things. It means comfort for the occupants. It means good indoor air quality. It means energy efficient and optimized from an economic perspective, low cost to operate. And then we need to look at the big, broad, holistic picture of, how and what we use to build that home and what we're going to do with it later. So all of these things to me would bundle into high performance, and we can do all these things to varying levels, and we can call it whatever we want. We don't need a label to justify that, but ultimately, just building a good quality home for the occupants. Well, yeah, let me talk about the first high performance home that we built. It's the first home that Naikoon built in North Vancouver, and every single home we've built since has been a high performance home to varying levels of performance or measurement, depending on how that's being done. The first high performance homes we built were in North Vancouver. It was the bottom of the market of the 2008 financial crisis when I started Naikoon. And I was very fortunate to have some contacts and a friend who had purchased some land in North Van, and from Masset as well. That's how I knew him, and old friend of my father's, and one of my best friends and great mentors in life and business, just from this logic perspective. He sold one lot to a person who was very passionate about green building, as we called it at the time, and maybe we still do. And that was really a early introduction to me, and I do owe him a lot on wanting to build what was the first, or one of the first, LEED Platinum for homes projects in Canada. This was taking the LEED program from commercial space and moving it into the housing space. It was also Built Green Platinum, which was a newer label for us. And then we also were R2000 certified builders at that time, which goes back into the 70s and 80s. And so that first home, I went and took a Built Green course, start understanding, and I immediately left that course. I said, this is the ticket moving forward. I'll never forget, Troy Glasner was the instructor there, and he said, it's the first time I ever heard these words, he said, net zero. Write that down, net zero. That's going to be the next thing. It was the first time I ever heard net zero, and it was totally correct. 10 years later, here we are. 15 years later, here we are, and it's mainstream stuff, and we're doing a lot of that. So this was a game-changing project. We executed that. It was put up for sale, so it was a home that was sort of a custom spec home, you would call that, right? Where it's a high-end custom home that's going to be intended for sale for profit. And the reactions that I saw during that exercise and during that sale process, there wasn't a lot of people that got it, but there were a number of people that came through, and they said, shake your hand and say, love what you're doing. Nobody's doing this. This is great. And I just got sort of one of these aha moments, and said, this is here to stay. This is going to be the next thing that everyone wants. And so we in turn applied those same principles to the house number 2 next door, and then carried on to a home in West Vancouver. And then really Naikoon's business snowballed from there. We've built over 75 high performance homes over those 14 years. Well, I think as a entrepreneur, and anyone out there that's taken the entrepreneurial leap, a lot of things that keep you up at night, and when you're running a business. And I think fortunately for me, a lot of what kept me up at night was more vision and seeing what could be done, and more exciting things versus stressful things. I think I've always approached the day-to-day of running my business in just trying to figure out what's right, and not try to be influenced too much from outside forces or other things, and just try and apply logic to just doing what's right. And I think that's what really drove us into building good quality, high performance homes at an affordable price in the early days there, when it was not as known today, or not being asked for today. So learned a lot of lessons over the years, and certainly found the things that would keep you up most would be quality for me. I'm still like that today. You can't build a perfect house. It's not a piano. You can try your best. It'll never be perfect. But those things bothered me, and you know what's behind the walls, and knowing that it wasn't perfect. Those things kind of keep me up still today. But I think it's important as builders that we learn because we want to versus have to, right? So the industry is changing rapidly, and high performance building is being codified, and so you're being forced to do this in many municipalities, and that's not going to change. The difference of a builder being forced to do something versus voluntarily do something is so significant. And so find your passion in this, whether it be building a energy performing home for your customer and making them happy, or whether it be for yourself, or whether it be for a marketing benefit for your business. But you have to find something that drives you, that you're passionate about, if you really want to be the best at that, and if you really want to perform at an elite level. You got to dig deep. Why are you doing this? Why are you in this business? Why do you run a business? Why are you an entrepreneur, right? There's ups and downs to all of these things. And so, you know, talk to others, get, you know, benchmark things, get educated, and something might just spark one day like it did for me. And that might be enough to fuel your energy and your passion for decades, right? It hasn't gone away for me. I remember the moment, the aha moment, the light bulb, and that's driven me still to right now. Sitting here, I wake up and I'm excited about doing great things in housing, and keeping our customers happy, and give you a big hug and a kiss when you're done their house, so on the cheek. Yeah. I don't know if I answered. Maroriuchi, green home in Japanese. That was a project that I was very fortunate to have launched as my own, myself and a partner. Purchased some land in North Vancouver back in 2013, 2014. And I had this house in my mind for years as I had learned and built high performance homes for others, and seen the marketplace and really cut our teeth in that space, and started to understand more about net zero and passive house, and sort of these high levels of performance, or these rating systems that were and still are ever changing and available to measure, you know, how we did in certain elements. And so this project had so much passion behind it. I spent hundreds or thousands of hours of my own time on the job site and actually assembling. And the goal there was to make a statement in what could be done. Every project has a budget, and certainly this one did as well. And so, you know, what can be done without having unlimited budget? Of course, if we had unlimited budgets, we'd be able to do all these things every time, and that would be simple, but we know that's not the reality. And so this project, it had so many elements to it. We made some bold statements as we launched it intentionally, you know, Canada's greenest home, or other things like this. And we started getting attention for that, which was good because it sparked conversation, it sparked interest from industry, from public. And really the objectives there were set out to be, take all of these labeling systems that we had used before. So R2000 being sort of the grandfather of green building, developed by some wonderful people through the CHBA, starting back in the 70s and 80s. So you take R2000, we take LEED Platinum, which we had done before, and try and achieve a higher score. This is a more holistic rating system that covers much more than energy performance. Taking Built Green, and then really taking EnerGuide and Net Zero and trying to build a home that produced as much energy as it consumed on an annual basis. There was no rating system for Net Zero at that time, and I'll get to that a little bit later because I think this connects. So that was the objective. The other pieces were just do something cool and funky and unique, and take all of the things that I didn't like about homes that I had built before or had been designed, and try to incorporate them into the house. You know, we got interested in rammed earth. Look that up if you don't know what that is. Rammed earth, typically done in large sites and not on a 30-foot infill urban lot. And so we were, you know, when I first had that idea, talked to some experts. They're like, yeah, I don't think it'll work there. And those are the kind of things that sparked me to be, you know, yeah, well, yeah, maybe, let's make it work. Let's do that. So we built that. You know, another part of that home is driving by an old warehouse 3 blocks away that was being demolished. It was an old timber frame warehouse built of solid fir and glulam timbers. And I was driving by one day and they were demolishing this building, and I stopped my truck and I pulled it into the driveway. And I said, what are you going to do with all those stacks of timbers? And the guy said, I don't know. Do you want them? I said, yeah, I think so. And I said, how much? And he said, $1,500. And I said, done. He said, you got to get them out of here by the end of the day. So I scrambled and I got at least a high-ab crane truck. There's a huge like B-train load of timber, 6,500 board feet of timber. And we brought all that in and we incorporated that into the house, building the floors and building details and ceiling features and stairs. And so that was an incredible experience with timber and reclamation and all of that wood will be able to come out of that house, you know, 100 years from now or more when it goes. So, you know, ultimately, you know, rainwater recycling, gray water reuse, we kind of did everything that we knew was possible and enhanced everything we had done before, and then tried and experimented with new things that we hadn't done. And so an incredible experience. It was hugely successful. And then you know, we were building our business at the time, right? So I don't think too many had heard of Naikoon at that time in the industry. And so that was another angle to that, right? Marketing side, you know, can we take what we've done and can we make a big splash and get some attention as a business driver, right? We are running a business here, and so are most of you, you know, that are interested in this. And so so we got really lucky there. You know, I remember a significant moment in life and in business, which was a decision to pay a PR firm, you know, $10,000 is a lot of money at that time. It still is, but a lot of money. We weren't making, we were small business, you know, 12, 13 employees, and we weren't making profits. And that was a huge chunk of money to think about spending at that time. And they were kind of the you know, top firm downtown. And so I made that decision to do that. I learned a lot there. I learned the power of media and the power of press. And you know, they launched this, and we got lucky. There was nothing going on in the news that day, and I remember standing up there, and there was, you know, 4 or 5 of the evening news cameras jostling for position. I'm like, what the hell is going on here? We walked them through the house, and the thing just went viral. It was on the news. All the news got interviews on CKNW radio. Contemporist picked it up, Dwell, a number of other publications across the world, Japan and Australia, and we're still getting leads today from that. Right, 10 years later, I'm still getting calls. I always find out, where did you hear about Naikoon? I said, oh, I remember this house you did. I saw here, and so it's incredible, the power of that media buy and that PR. Yeah, I think the impact of that, it's hard to speak from, you know, from here. I've had others, you know, suggest that project impacted industry in a few ways, because of the attention it got. I know with certainty, you know, right at that time is when the CHBA called to launch a committee and a council to validate net zero, right? People were making claims of net zero. We had the EnerGuide label to use, which we still do, but trying to validate what net zero was, and done that successfully. I sat on the committee, founding member of the committee, and the management group of that committee for 7 years, 3 years on the management, and we have a label today. There's over 1,000 homes labeled across Canada under this net zero label that's administered by CHBA. And so you know, I think that was some good discussion there, where there's some bold claims being made, and generated some conversation about, you know, how are we gonna measure this, and kind of hold people accountable to that. So I think that was not directly correlated, but certainly at that time there was a number of things going on in the industry that had people asking about that, and so that's been a huge success. I think as far as like green home building, quote unquote, goes, or high performance, you know, that even though this is, you know, this is eight years ago, man, there's been radical change in our industry since then, right? It's not related to that project, but you know, that there was no step code, there was no step code council, there was no, they hadn't, that conversation was just starting. You know, we ran that home through the PHPP modeling tool, right? There'd been no passive house. There was no passive house in Canada quite yet at that time, 2012. I think the Olympics, when is the Vancouver Olympics? 2010, Vancouver 2010 Olympics, I think, was the first passive house building in Canada, right? And man, that was not that long ago, but things have sort of changed, so we forget. So, you know, so we weren't getting customers coming in at that time saying, hey, I'm interested in a net zero home, or nobody even knew what that was, right? You'd be the weird guy at the bar talking about net zero. No one would know. No one would know what the hell you're talking about. It's incredible how fast things have changed, and so and that's not necessarily good, right? I'm an advocate of high performance building and green home building for a variety of reasons. Environmental is one, comfort and quality are others, but things have changed very, very fast. And I think for me, you know, that was a moment in time where things really took off for the business, and really took off for high performance housing, where we said, you know, that's all we do now. We're known for that. And I think, you know, we established ourselves in the industry as a well-known builder's name then, and everyone associated us with high performance, and that was correct. That's what we did, and that's what we still do. Let's be real, this is a challenging business, industry, construction, and running a business is tough, and trying to adapt to ever-changing codes and regulations is tough. And so we're all facing that now as an industry, from home builders to building inspectors to capacity of different positions that didn't exist 10 years ago, all sort of supporting mandated high performance in the province of BC and in the municipalities you work in. So if I could draw back on my my early high performance days, and you know, some of the challenges that we had, which I think are being faced today, it comes down to education. I can remember the first home we built there in North Van that I spoke about earlier, and we were going to do we were doing a airtight house, exterior insulation with this brand new product called you know, Rockboard 80 at the time, which is the Roxel you guys see today on all your projects, many of your projects, with strapping. And we were going to use Tyvek as an air barrier, no poly inside, and a vapor barrier paint, right? Right out of the building science manual. And the inspector had never seen or heard of this before. You know, I think as we all get confused with how we've learned to build in the 80s and 90s, with poly being both the air and vapor barrier typically. He just couldn't understand that, so I had to explain it. He thought that was pretty cool. I had my CHBA builder's manual out there that I had got from the course I took with Troy, and I tried to explain the science to him, and he got it. He thought that was really neat. He was supportive, but he said, you're going to need someone to sign off on this, right? And so that's the beginning of some challenges of needing an envelope engineer to sign off on everything we do now in many municipalities, right? As we all face, there's so many stamps and seals now required in what we do, and that's all reasonably new as well. So those were challenges. I brought in my man, Richard Kudalski, who's been a huge mentor to me, and the godfather of green building and the R2000 program, and he, you know, he sent a letter and stamped off on that, and also provided advice. And I think, you know, there's so many other challenges that I've overcome in my career and continue to, and they're all solved typically the same way, which is, you know, assume you know nothing and get together with peers, experts, consultants, subject matter experts, and ask them what they think, right? So I learned a lot of the science through people like Richard. There was only a small group of us builders back then. Marcel from Econ Group, he even came by our job site at that time and check out this, incredibly innovative exterior assembly that we were doing, which is norm today. At that time, it was exotic, right? It was the first time that product had been used too, and so there's risks to that, right? So you have to have a little bit of guts to innovate, right? You have to know that if you're doing something for the first time, there's a pretty good chance like something might go wrong, and it might cost you some money, or it might cost you some pain. But I view that money or pain, and always have, as cheap education, really, for what I'm passionate about. And you can't learn if you don't try something, and if nobody has the guts to try something, then we're in a stagnant environment, and it's kind of boring, to be honest. So I think my point on challenges, they're always going to be there. There's going to be more challenges if you're trying to push the limits. But if you're just sort of getting into high performance, you're just getting into building, find somebody that knows what they're doing, and be humble and be honest, and see if you can find someone that'll mentor you, and multiple people that can mentor you formally or informally, and connect with peer groups and home builders associations and other places, and benchmark what you're doing, because I still do that and always will, no matter what level you're at. You don't know what you don't know, and as soon as you realize that, somebody else is gonna teach you something every single day. And overall, the last piece I would give you is digitization. You need to digitize your business. The tools available to us today as builders to be able to virtually construct our projects are ready. They're there. They're hard to adapt to. You got to learn. You've got to find somebody that knows how to do that, but you do need to focus on that. So I give you that as a piece of advice, is that over the next 5 years, if you're not digitizing the construction and optimizing the construction through digitization, you're going to be way behind. And so figure that out. And some call it BIM, some call it VDC. It's not 3D modeling, okay? It's not 3D modeling. It's the underlying data inside of a model that allows you to virtually construct the home and extract your material quantities out of that, and understand your embodied carbon impact and your energy impact. That's going to be critical to any business in this industry moving forward, and I'm quite certain of that. Going back to the Midoriuchi, or the first homes we built there in the early days of high performance for us, there was not a lot of discussion. There's not a lot of discussion about this. We didn't have clients coming in and saying, "Hey, can you build us a super high performance home, or can you build us a net zero house?" It just didn't happen. When we grew passionate, and when we grew passionate about what was right as far as like a good quality home goes, and I think again, we boil high performance all the way down to just a good quality home, and there's a number of pillars to that. But we would have to educate our clients, and I think there's no different today. The first step is, a client comes in, even though everyone comes in, they say, I need a house, or I want to build a house, or very much the same process. But there's two significant variables that come out. There's more than that, but one is the client themselves, right? So we talked about kind of culture and values, and so who is this client, and what are their values, and what are their requirements, right? We need to establish what their requirements are, and if their requirements are, I need the cheapest possible house you can build, then they may or may not be the right fit. I mean, there's groups out there that are good at that. That's not going to be a high performance house, and that's probably not going to be a fit to try and convince to build a high performance house, because their values are there, right? And so establishing requirements of our clients first, understanding what they want, making sure they're the right fit for you and your business, and And then from there, educating, right? Hey, have you heard of this? Hey, have you considered this? And they may or may not know. And so you need to be educated yourself if you want to be able to educate them on building science and educate them on indoor air quality and some of these things now that are becoming demanded almost by consumers, right? You know, HRV, right, or the fresh air machine in layman's terms. You know, people are starting to understand that now, where you go back 10, 15 years and because it wasn't the norm, it wasn't codified like a lot of it is today, people wouldn't come in and ask. So what I've seen over this period though, today, the consumers are so educated. They come in and maybe it's because we've developed a reputation as Naikoon to be, you know, the high performance builder, and that's why most of the clients I see are coming to us for those reasons. That's why they engage with us. But just in general, consumers are far more educated. So they come in and they ask for things that and they describe building science like never before. And so I think that's great. And if they don't, then they need a little bit of education. And so it really comes down to quality. I always use that one. Well, do you want a high quality home? And most people would say yes to that, right? And then it just comes down to you know, where do you want to spend your budget, right? Do you want a $50,000 fridge and a decent, you know, thermal assembly and windows, or do you want a $20,000 fridge and a really good windows, and trying to balance that stuff out? I mean, that's maybe not the greatest example, but you know, if people decide they'd rather have kind of crummy windows and, you know, and nicer landscape or something else, then those are their decisions. But what's changed today is that in many cases those aren't their decisions anymore, because the good windows are mandatory and the air tightness is mandatory in many municipalities. And so now educating homeowners for me has changed, where I'm more educating them on what they're being forced to do, which are many of the things are what we would you know, advocate for back in the day. But we do have to be cautious now on not going too far with some of these things, right? So we've got to pull back once in a while and get back to the roots and the core of, you know, what our passion is as a builder. And if it's good quality homes for good people at a good value, right? We have to understand their value, what's valued to them, and we have to deliver that and make sure that we don't exceed that. Otherwise, you'll be out of a value proposition, and they may not be happy, and you may not get that client. Let's talk a little bit about high performance housing and design. So if you asked me, how could I build the highest performing home for the least amount of money? Well, I would tell you that it's simple. We'll design a cube, and it'll have 4 corners, and it'll have minimal glazing and really nice thick wall assemblies, and you're gonna have a really high performing home. The problem is it may not look sexy or nice, or it wouldn't be, what do they call, curb appeal? It wouldn't have curb appeal, as the realtors would say. And so certainly in Vancouver, the city, the surrounding areas, and probably most parts of the world, people want homes that look nice, and they come home to that and they feel proud, and so on. And so how do we marry together high performance and timeless architecture? We've done it. We've been challenged to do it in Passive House and Net Zero. This is going to cost some money. So we have to understand that the more complex the design and architecture, being articulations of the building, cantilevers, offset floor plates, these kind of things that make buildings interesting for many, they start posing more risk and challenge to high performance, because it's harder to get air barriers, it's harder to insulate, it's harder to to create the proper thermal assemblies and eliminate the thermal bridges. I'm getting a bit technical, but it's doable, but it needs to be planned from the get-go. And I would say on the flip side, architecture and aesthetics of buildings gets challenged now, where glass window to wall ratios, if you view a window as a big hole in your wall, right? If you're talking about high performance housing, even if it's a triple glazed window or a really good window, it's still just a big hole through your wall. And so logic would tell us that the more of those we have, the less energy efficient that building is going to be, which is true. And so we have to manage window to wall ratio, and we have to manage other technical aesthetic details. And it makes things complicated today. Certainly in this city, certainly some of the projects that we're building today in housing and you're building is, we need the experts sitting at the table at the beginning. You need an energy advisor sitting at the table at design concept. The orientation of the home and the topography in relation to the sunshine and other things are all factors on what you can and can't do to meet certain levels of the step code. And so we need to rely on some of the tools that are available to us today, and digitization and modeling. We talked a little bit technical. Let's talk a little bit about business and culture. I've always said that culture trumps strategy. So you could have a really good strategy in your business and a gritty kind of misaligned culture, and you might do okay, but it'd be a lot of effort to maybe not get too far. So you've got to build a culture of your organization. You have one already. We do this through a clear set of core values that we all share, and we hire, fire, reward, and recognize on these core values. These are things that are in us. You can't teach them, right? You could try to be that, but eventually, you'll be working too hard to try and fit in, and you'll get smoked out. And no matter what size the organization, they all have a culture. Some have it a bit more clear and defined and up on the wall like we do, and others don't. It just works because it's naturally there. So as a founder, as an entrepreneur, generally these are going to be yours, right? You're the visionary of that company, and in most cases they're the founder's values that they start aligning like-minded people with them. And what that does, and what I've found in growth and learning in the ebbs and flows of business and the ceilings we break through, right? You get to 10 or 12 employees, and you can do that largely unorganized, right? It'll work. That's kind of a ceiling in there. Then you have to get organized if you want to get to the next level, up to 20, 25, 30 employees. And then from there, many businesses never go past there because they don't want to, or they're too scared to do so. But breaking through that next ceiling has certainly been the most challenging time of my career. And you really have to build a company that's going to be able to manage 75 employees. Well, you only have 35. And so there's economics around that, and there's all kinds of challenges. And it's scary because you're in a really good place at that time, and you're doing well. And so you have to make a big decision. And I waffled on that myself for many years. Do we want to grow, or do we want to keep this the same as a business? And so ultimately the decision is to grow. And the first attempt at that was unsuccessful. I failed, and pulled the pin and retracted down almost half the staff, and that was because of culture. You look around, and you're going to spend more time with these people than anyone else in your life, in your business, and so they better be people you want to spend time with. And if you're spending 50% of your energy dealing with grit and drama and all this kind of stuff, then that's a waste of energy, and you're going to have a hard time propelling into a successful business, and you may not be having much fun. And so that was the case for me. So rebuilt the team on a base of people and a clear set of core values, and live those today. and it removes the grit. You're spending 95% of your energy on the work and the passion and what you're enjoying to do, and you're having fun, and there's no grit there. So I think that's critical. If you haven't identified your core values as a business, then you should. There's lots of great systems out there that you could adopt into your business that could help you with that, or facilitators. But get a mentor, get a business person that knows how to get structured if you do want to grow, and you can move ahead with that. It's rewarding, but not easy, right? It doesn't come easy. You got to work at that. So let's talk about people or misaligned people with your vision. Right? If your vision's high performance or building a big business, you need aligned people. And this again just ties back to this culture and these core values. You can't change someone's personality. It's possible actually, but very, very rare that we'd be able to change someone's personality. We can alter each other's behavior. We can change behaviors, but personality, the values, the who you really are as a person, if there's a misalignment there, it's going to be gritty forever. And so if you're trying to build something high performance and you've got a group of people that value kind of the cheapest way to get it done, or have been raised and have the perspective of that's silly, this is not what we want to do, well, they're going to sabotage your vision. And so there's really only one answer to that, and you have to find people that are aligned, and it's hard. These are hardest decisions you make as an entrepreneur and business owner. It's not personal, right? It's not about whether I like you as a person or not. It's about, I'm trying to build this high performance home, and I need all of my team and experts to be aligned with that and be passionate about that so that it's successful. And if any one of these individuals or people you surround yourself trying to do that are on the wrong side of the fence, or are naturally or intentionally or unintentionally sabotaging that vision, it's going to make it really hard. So you really got to identify that, and you really got to align yourself with good people. I know it's tough. We're in an industry right now where it's, geez, you can't find people and you can't find trades, and you have to just trust that you will, and they're out there more and more today. And those are the people that are going to support this risk you take as you embark on new things. You go outside of the box of where you are comfortable in your business and in your construction methodologies. And you need these people to support that, the subject matter experts, the mechanical folks, the envelope folks. They're there. So ask around, and they're passionate, and they're busy, just like you are. But continuing with misaligned people is just not going to make that experience enjoyable, and it may make it unsuccessful, and it may sour you from trying to do that again, and I'd hate to see that. So if you're not aligned with where this bus is going, then get off the bus. No, I think we can, rounding out the culture piece around the business and sort of taking that into objectives of a business. So you want to build high performance housing, you want to build net zero housing, you want to move the business from where you are today into that space and be an expert in that space. Well, there's a cultural piece to that as well. The people that are in your organization, the people that you surround yourself and work with, being, your sub-trades, your suppliers, they need to be on board with this vision as well. And so you need to make sure that's clear, one, make sure they know, communicate that. And then make sure you've got people that are going to come along the way with you to achieve that. Otherwise, it's going to be gritty. It's going to be challenging. So you got to find some passion inside of the people around you, and of course yourself. And so being able to move forward in your first net zero house or your first high performance home, well, it might be scary, but you got to go take some courses, right? Some great building science. You need to understand building science. You need to understand the house as a system, right? So depending where you came from, I came from carpentry. My background proudly was a Red Seal carpenter, and I understood the nuts and bolts of a house going together. And so that was my perspective on building. you may have come from somewhere else, but no matter where it is, we have to understand the house as a system. So do our subtrades, and so do our staff, because you can't just take certain components of high performance building and apply them to a building and say this is high performance. It's all cohesive, right? You can't build a really airtight envelope and super insulated house and not have a ventilation system that connects to that, right? That's not oversized, or that's not providing the right level of ventilation and air quality into the rooms. And so get educated, reach out to builders if you're in the Home Builders Association or not. Builders have been great. I remember starting out, maybe I had a bit more guts than some, but I would just phone up the best guy. I phone up Bob Deeks at RDC Homes, and hey Bob, what are you doing here? And how did you do that? I'm thinking of doing this. And he would tell me everything. He'd give me all his lessons learned, and I do the same today. And so don't be shy to benchmark yourself with others, and that's how you learn. And then next thing you know, you wake up and 15 years later, you're the person that people are calling, and you're the expert. And so yeah, be bold, be gutsy, and get educated. Midori Uchi was a huge success. We'll be coming up on 10 years ago now. It's amazing how fast time flies. I still look the same though, don't I? I'm still young and fresh. So what's next? Yeah, I mean, I've been thinking about this. We've done some great projects, and I think what's changing, I know what's changing, and what we're sort of cooking up now is the focus, right? So let's just pull up to 30,000 feet for a minute and understand, why is step code mandated across British Columbia? Well, it's largely environmental, right? So municipalities start declaring climate emergencies and so on over the last several years, and reaction to that is, well, let's limit the operational energy usage of housing, which is good, could be good, depending on what the fuel source is and all of these other factors. And so I think what industry is realizing, the leaders, the innovators, the early adopters in the high performance construction industry as a whole, have realized that maybe this isn't the right measurement, right? If we're talking about environmental, right? We're talking about comfort, we're talking about air quality, all these other things. They're still there, very correct, but a more holistic look on what we're doing and what our net impact of a house is on the environment, right? So embodied carbon, life cycle analysis. What are we going to do with these houses? We build a big house with 12 inches of high embodied carbon insulation in it. Well, what are we going to do with that in 60 years, which is sad, or 100 years when the house reaches its lifespan, right? That's a whole other conversation. We should be building houses that last hundreds of years. There's no reason for not. But the reality is they don't. So we need to look at this. And so that's something that I've been trying to understand and focus on for the last little while, and see if we can kind of launch a project that still incorporates energy performance, of course, right? But not for environmental reasons necessarily, more so for comfort, health, right? Biophilic design principles of connectivity to nature and living longer, and keeping the wrinkles off your face, and then connecting those with the environmental pieces, which would be, wood is where I would go with that right away. So can we replace concrete with wood? Can we do that in a subterranean application? Can we look at the materials, resources, and activities that we use inside the execution of the project holistically, big picture? Where did the products come from, cradle to gate? Where are they going to go from into the grave or into the dump? And look at the whole big picture of net impact of a house. And I don't think we would classify that as high performance. High performance would be one piece of it, but total, just low impact and reducing the impact of our industry and our home building on the environment and these other factors. So I have a project to launch in the next 12 months, which will embody all of these things. And you can start looking at programs like Living Building Challenge, and components of that, and sort of connecting them all together, similar to what we did with Midoriuchi, which was very energy focused, but we did use LEED, which is a very great holistic program. And so just connecting all of these, list hundreds of labels together, and just taking the best pieces of them all and sort of trying to create just a wonderful project that we can be proud of and hopefully gain some marketability for the business on. The future of home building. So let's talk about that. What do you think? What's this decade going to bring? I mean, we talked a little bit about, the radical change that occurred in the past 10 years, right? It's, if you pull out, wild, right? Like the number of code changes and step code and high performance and net zero and carbon, like, wow. Like, look at the 50 years before that. There was a couple, he went from 2x4 walls to 2x6 walls in the 90s and added some rain screen. I mean, those were the big wowzers back then. And so it's so fast, so quick, which isn't good, right? I know we're trying to catch up for impact. If this is all environmentally driven, we're trying to catch up, but being reactive and pushing the industry into capacity challenges, which we're in right now, right? We want to learn high performance building. Many of you because you want to, many of you because you have to. It's the way we have to build now. And so we have to be careful on how fast we advance codes. And so what do I see moving forward in the next decade? Well, I'll tell you clearly what I see, which is I don't think step 5 will mature to be code. I think it'll back off because I think it's a little bit too far. And because of the materials and other things that need to go in to execute a home to step code 5 in this climate zone and in the Lower Mainland, I think it might be a bit too far. We've got some data to support that. So we'll find a sweet spot. We got to find a sweet spot, right? So what is the sweet spot environmentally, comfort-wise, cost-wise, right? I'm sure you're all facing the same challenges. Is it costs a lot of money to build these days, and sometimes the numbers just don't pencil up and projects are not going forward and people can't afford that. Well, that's going to be a problem. That's a serious problem if people stop building, right? We won't have any work. So we have to keep an eye on all of these things and find a balance, right? So we can't be too extreme to one side or the other, but I do believe we'll see operational energy codes and operational energy for performance of these buildings back off a little bit, even though we haven't even got there yet. But I don't think the prescribed path, I think it'll back off, and I think it should. I believe that's correct. And then we're going to start seeing indirect regulation of what materials you're allowed to use to build. I don't think you'll see you can't use this and you can't use that, but you will see embodied carbon calculations being required, environmental product declarations on label, on materials. Environmental product declaration on a piece of material tells you the cradle to gate, so that's like the mining to manufacturing to ready to ship to you, embodied impact of that piece of material, that sheet of foam, and you'll have a score to hit of how much embodied carbon or net impact your house can have on the environment, and you'll have to produce that. So I think that's coming. I think we'll see that coming soon, and over the next 5 years, 10 years, that'll be the focus. Is what we're using, how we're using it, and get back to a more holistic view rather than just the operational energy piece, right? We're in BC. Right, majority of BC, we're using clean hydroelectric energy, reasonably clean hydroelectric energy to electrify the houses. So it's different here than it is in Alberta or in Ontario or in China. It's it's different, right? So we're starting to see nuclear energy come back, which is really clean as long as you can figure out how to get rid of the waste. And so we're gonna see continual change and innovation. I think the wood is going to be a big deal. There's many things we can do with wood. We can insulate with wood. We can build structures with wood. It's a very durable product. It's very locally available here in British Columbia. We've got a lot of wood. And so I think we'll see a continual focus on wood and trying to replace high embodied materials with wood materials. If I give you any advice now that I've been 20 years grinding my way through business, there's ups and downs to that, but in a really good spot. I still learn every day. So, be humble. I think, I went through some periods earlier on where you think you know more than you do. And I realize as I get older and more mature that, I don't know much, and you can learn so much from those people around you. So be humble, ask lots of questions, find a mentor. We all started somewhere. Often we, certainly I did, just obsessed about kind of getting where I wanted to get to, but didn't know how or who to reach out to, and so just tried to figure it out on my own. So millions of other entrepreneurs in this space have already figured it out on their own, and so you'd be crazy not to go talk to or ask a few of those, and most will be totally willing to share, right? They see if you're just starting out, and I had some super great people that I didn't understand at the time that helped me out a ton that were in the business. And a good friend of mine, Builder, he unfortunately just passed away, but he would give me so much information, and I didn't understand why. And he told me later on, he said, look, when you were a young whippersnapper, all passionate about growing your business and asking all these great questions, I saw me in you. If you're starting out and you're passionate, somebody will find that, and they'll give you the tools, they'll give you the information, they'll give you the lessons learned, and then you have to listen to those. I had a few wise mentors that told me lots of great things, and I didn't listen to a lot of it because I thought I knew better. And almost all of it came true, and almost all of it was correct. And so, just be sure to surround yourself with good people, be open-minded, and then you have to be passionate and obsessed with what you're doing if you want to be successful in this business. You have to live, breathe, eat, and sleep that, and every day. If that feels like work, then it might not be the right piece. But if it feels exciting, passionate, and certainly there's some grind in there and some work, then just keep going, and you'll get there.